Hello, it's me, the Avatar Fanatic, and today we will talk about Avatar The Last Airbender and its fantastic animation. And we will also be paying attention to its attention to detail and its gorgeous artistic work that enables the amazing show overall. Now, let's get into the video. Avatar is a majestic series with majestic animation. Konietzko and DiMartino were the creators of Avatar, the single greatest series in the history of mankind, or at least very close at worst to it. But before that, who were they? Well, in simplest terms, they both worked on episodes in Family Guy, King of the Hill, and Mission Hill. They were having good careers and progressing them when in 2004, they came up with the idea of Avatar and pitched it to Nickelodeon, and it worked, giving us this beautiful project. Mike was the story editor, Brian was the character designer and art designer of the series. One logical question that you may ask would be, how did their animation become so great? Now, since obviously you can't do it all yourself, animators have to work in animation teams to even possibly finish anything high production. So, the next question that you would probably ask yourself is, what was the process of finding those animation teams? Brian and Mike set sail. Well, not literally, but pretty much. They set sail on a voyage to search for Japanese animation companies to help them produce their series, and no one took up on their offer. As a result, they looked in South Korea, where they hired JM Animation as their lead animation studio, which was a relatively new startup from some people in the Tin House Animation Studio, who had worked and released the film Wonderful Days just before the start of ATLA. They also hired DR Movie, and also they did some episodes in season 1 as well. And in book 3, they hired their sister company Moy Animation for animation. JM Animation worked in all books of the series, while DR worked in books 1 and 2, and Moy Animation was present exclusively in book 3. In order to pick these companies, we have to look at Animation Studio Resume. JM Animation have also worked on other things such as Green Lantern, Emerald Knights, the video game Dante's Inferno, along with Moy Animation on that, Season 3 of Boondocks along with Moy, the DC Showcase Jonah Henex, and many other shows. Moy Animation has worked on many projects themselves. They are Emmy Award-winning South Korean-based animation studio, a spin-off brand of DR Movie, working on projects such as The Legend of Korra, Batman, The Brave and the Bold, Ben 10, many DC showcases including Catwoman, Green Arrow, etc., many Justice League movies, and the 2009 Wonder Woman film. Dr. Movie have worked on things like 15 episodes of The Batman, 6 episodes of Justice League, 20 episodes of Justice League Unlimited. They did 1 episode of The Simpsons, 1 episode of Teen Titans, and a 2015 Guardians of the Galaxy film, etc. There is much influence in Korean animation style in the shows, as you see in the characters. Each animation studio had slightly different styles, which I will show here. There are slight differences. Some have more Korean style eyes, while some are more realistic. Some pay more attention to shadows on the faces. Some of the studios also have probably slightly different methods on how they deal with characters and lighting even. So even as a result of different styles, another logical question would be, how is the animation of the show amazing even though they changed styles because of alternating studios? Well, it's because the studios all did a great job, on top of Konietzko doing a great job with the character design and also managing that situation well so they don't veer too far from each other in style. There are many animators in that circle who were responsible for much of the animation in ATLA and were character designers and even producers in TLOK, which basically made their animation styles very similar to one another, even though you could argue The Legend of Korra had slight differences in animation style to Avatar The Last Airbender, and probably a little bit higher production, but I would argue it's not as good actually. The animation style gets complex when you get to the main point of the series. Bending. Having to create a whole separate style of animation isn't easy, and having to do them with all of these bending styles below, I may be missing some because it's an inordinate amount, is extremely time consuming and requires a meticulous mind. That's why Avatar had Sung Hyun Oh, probably butchered that, but work on being the timing director for Book 1 of ATLA and supervising director for the Korean team. He later moved to the US and became supervising storyboard director and largely designed the final battle between Avatar Aang and Fire Lord Ozai. Martial arts. Each of the four elements, air, fire, earth, water, and their focus on bending had each their own Chinese martial arts style that they followed. Airbending followed Bagua. Firebending followed Northern Shaolin Kung Fu. Waterbending followed Tai Chi. Earthbending followed Hung Ga Kung Fu. And earthbenders like Toph followed the Southern Praying Mantis style of Kung Fu. Ty Lee also seemed to be using the White Crane Fist and the Phoenix Eye Fist on her opponents as well. Konietzko and his martial arts teacher Sifu Kisu largely acted out scenes to translate in the show, and Konietzko even acted out some scenes himself for the animators to translate. Sifu Manuel Rodriguez was brought in for the Praying Mantis style. You have to do a really good job to not get these wrong, and an even better job to get these right. The way Avatar does it, which makes it extremely satisfying, is that they make the martial arts styles happen in the course of the battles with smooth and swift movements. Aang uses his Bagua style, which aims to get behind his enemies and keep them there. You see this in many of his battles, especially in his first fight against Zuko. Avatar immerses this perfectly over the course of that battle. Northern Shaolin Kung Fu is used by firebenders predominantly, with Zuko and Zhao being users of this martial arts style. This is best shown in the Zuko and Zhao battle, where Zhao and Zuko are jumping around doing athletic things like kicks, punches. They're all utilized to beat each other. Zuko won in Book 1 against Zhao, who was in the Fire Nation as an admiral, may I add, with a sleek kick as the finisher. But then he loses to Aang and Azula in various points in that same season as well, which just shows Avatar logic. You can beat the second in command, basically, in the Fire Nation, the first in command for their navy, but you can't beat a 12-year-old kid. Tai Chi is mostly used by waterbenders, which it is mostly shown in Katara's usage of it, whether it's in her fights, her development scenes, or even her angry outrage at Jet. Earthbenders utilize Hung Ga, which is a martial art where you are rooted to the ground, and in the show, it's used to fire attacks and lift heavy objects. Bumi uses this technique a lot across the show against Aang, and does it very, very well, may I add. Toph also uses Southern Praying Mantis style, where there's not a lot of movement but a lot of technique. In her defense and her attacks, it's also incorporated well in the show due to it being unique to Toph. It's incorporated seamlessly in the show, and after a while you get used to it and you don't really think about it, which is the best way to think of combat. The combat, it should just be intense. You don't look at what they're doing. You're looking at the brawl. You're looking at the fight. Ty Lee seems to be using the White Crane Fist and Phoenix Eye Fist in her attacks, used to disable her enemies for a certain amount of time. This is again mostly, if not exclusively, unique to her in the show, and she utilizes it greatly in battles, chi blocking her enemies, chi blocking some of the most powerful benders around, even such as Azula, such as Katara. I mean, she's able to do that largely because of skill and because of good awareness. The animators of this series also portray the feelings of the characters well. For example, Zuko in Season 1 with angry firebending compared to Zuko in Season 3 with control firebending is much different. Same with Azula in Book 1 and 2 compared to Book 3 and her fractured mental state. Reich are currently working on many other projects as of now in Avatar Studios, with the Viacom as its spearhead in funding. with the goal of creating other creative animation projects in the Avatar universe. This studio, which Konietzko and DiMartino are heads of, is said to be developing exclusively in a hybrid style of animation, combining 2D and CG animation, said to be similar to Into the Spider-Verse's implementation of that style. The first movie, projected to release on November 10, 2025, is a movie based on Aang and Team Avatar as young adults. Netflix is currently working on a live-action version of ATLA because of its success. Konietzko and DiMartino were originally involved in the project as executive producers and showrunners, but are no longer due to creative disagreements between the two parties. Let me know if you want an animation analysis of The Legend of Korra down below by hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel. If you guys would like to suggest other video ideas, also feel free to do so down below. Now, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to know when I upload more content. Also, comment down below your opinions on Avatar's animation. And this has been me, the Avatar Fanatic, out.